Hello, Weston Baptist Chapel. Thank you for joining us as we continue our journey down the Via Dolorosa. Today is day number 38, and we pick up in Matthew chapter 15, beginning at verse 21. Then Jesus left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A gentle woman who lived there came to him, pleading, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David, for my daughter is possessed by a demon that torments her severely." But Jesus gave her no reply, not even a word. Then his disciples urged him to send her away. "Tell her to go away," they said. "She is bothering us with all her begging." Then Jesus said to the woman, "I was sent only to help God's lost sheep, the people of Israel." But she came and worshipped him, pleading again, "Lord, help me." Jesus responded, "It isn't right to take food from children and throw it to the dogs." She replied, "That's true, Lord, but even dogs are allowed to eat the scraps that fall beneath their master's table." "Dear woman," Jesus said to her, "your faith is great, your request is granted," and her daughter was instantly healed. Silence. How do we respond when God is silent? The disciples assumed silence meant disapproval, or at least indifference, so they told the woman to go away. Jesus does not have time for you. The woman saw silence as a barrier she had to push through, so she kept asking. Jesus revealed silence was a way to draw out faith, great faith. When God is silent, do we listen to voices that question our right to hear from God, speak doubt, speak opposition, or do we press into God? It depends on whether we believe God will hear and answer our prayers or not. If we do, we press in. If we do not, then God's silence exposes our limited level of faith. Note, faith is not defined by the type of answer God gives. Sometimes the answer is no, but rather whether we press in to get an answer from God when He is silent. Silence. How do we respond? We are impatient people. We struggle with waiting. We question whether He is listening at times. How long before we see that our faith is not defined by the answer we get, but defined instead by our willingness to press in when we face difficulties or silence? We need to believe that He is a good God who will release good things to His children, even if it takes time for Him to answer. We need to willingly wait. Let's continue reading, picking up at verse 29. Jesus returned to the Sea of Galilee and climbed a hill and sat down. A vast crowd brought to him people who were lame, blind, crippled, those who couldn't speak, and many others. They laid them before Jesus, and He healed them all. The crowd was amazed. Those who hadn't been able to speak were talking. The crippled were made well. The lame were walking, and the blind could see again, and they praised the God of Israel. Then Jesus called His disciples and told them, "I feel sorry for these people. They have been here with me for 3 days, and they have nothing left to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry, or they will faint along the way." The disciples replied, "Where would we get enough food here in the wilderness for such a huge crowd?" Jesus asked, "How much bread do you have?" They replied, 7 loaves and a few small fish. So Jesus told all the people to sit down on the ground. Then He took the 7 loaves and the fish, thanked God for them, and broke them into pieces. He gave them to the disciples, who distributed the food to the crowd. They all ate as much as they wanted. Afterward, the disciples picked up 7 large baskets of leftover food. There were 4,000 men who were fed that day, in addition to all the women and children. Then Jesus sent the people home, and He got into a boat and crossed over to the region of Magadan. A lot of hurting people went looking for Jesus, and they found Him. He healed them. He fed them. Is this the Jesus you and I have experienced? Sometimes people do not experience this because they do not seriously look for Jesus. Other times they do not experience Jesus this way because we are not willing to be Jesus' hands and heart to these needy people. Even His disciples did not know what to do with such a big group of people. So we are in good company. However, just like the disciples, we just need to bring big problems to Jesus. They are too big for us. but instead of just ignoring them, bring them to Jesus. He is capable of doing what needs to be done. This should be such a great reminder to us. We need to not hold back because problems are too big for us. We need to bring people to Jesus when they have problems because we cannot solve them anyway. As our friends deal with issues bigger than they can handle, release blessing when they bring them to Him. Let's continue reading, picking up Matthew 16, beginning at verse 1. One day, the Pharisees and Sadducees came to test Jesus, demanding that He show them a miraculous sign from heaven to prove His authority. He replied, "You know the saying, red sky at night means fair weather tomorrow. Red sky in the morning means foul weather all day. You know how to interpret the weather signs in the sky, but you don't know how to interpret the signs of the times. Only an evil, adulterous generation would demand a miraculous sign, but the only sign I will give them is the sign of the prophet Jonah." Then Jesus left them and went away. This is important to understand. Often, we want miracles from God. Is that wrong? Are we testing God and His faithfulness to us? Jesus says in this passage that asking for some kinds of miracles is wrong. They wanted a miracle that, quote unquote, proved that Jesus was who He said He was. Jesus said that this would come from the story of Jonah. Jonah was the prophet who was in the belly of a fish for 3 days. Jesus is saying that his 3 days in the grave was the same thing. That happened, and they did not believe it. In other words, one miracle was not enough for them to believe. Jesus exposed the motives of their heart. Be careful about requests for things that are only meant to satisfy us and meet our desires. If they're only to meet our needs and not to honor God, not help us to grow in our faith, not release blessing on others, then it is not much different than the request of these leaders. Just like Jesus did here, He may answer us and we will not recognize it because it did not come the way we wanted it to. He has asked us to pray. When we pray, we often ask Him to do special things. We need Him to help us to be careful in these requests. Even more, we need His help to be aware that He may answer in ways that we do not expect. We need Him to give us a wise and discerning heart to see His answers. Also, if prayers are meant to meet our needs, then ask Him to help us be thankful, humble, and grateful when He answers. That way, we will honor Him with everything we say and do. Let's continue reading, picking up at verse number 5. Later, after they crossed to the other side of the lake, the disciples discovered they had forgotten to bring any bread. "Watch out," Jesus warned them. "Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." At this, they began to argue with each other because they hadn't brought any bread. Jesus knew what they were saying, so He said, "You have so little faith. Why are you arguing with each other about having no bread? Don't you understand even yet? Don't you remember the 5,000 I fed with 5 loaves and the baskets of leftovers you picked up? Or the 4,000 I fed with 7 loaves and the baskets of leftovers you picked up? Why can't you understand that I'm not talking about bread? So again I say, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." And at last they understood that He wasn't speaking about the yeast and bread, but about the deceptive teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Guard ourselves against the teachings of these religious leaders. Who can we trust? Just because a leader is sincere, says things we like, has a huge following, does that mean they should be followed? Here are some things in Matthew 15 and 16 we can see. Some leaders worry more about the external than the internal. Do not follow them. Some leaders get offended when the perspectives are exposed. Do not follow them. Some leaders tear others down to build themselves up. Do not follow them. Some leaders draw us away from Jesus to them. Do not follow them. Some leaders seek signs from God but never follow through with obedience. Do not follow them. Some leaders, disciples, learn slowly. Give them a break. If their hearts are right, they will figure it out eventually. Jesus took time to put up with the disciples, even though they took time to understand what He said. That is like most of us. We learn slower than we should, but our hearts are right. We need His help to avoid leaders with hard and proud hearts. They will not lead us to Him. In the end, He wants leaders that point His children to Jesus. We need to be that kind of leader. Let's continue reading, picking up in verse 13. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi. Let's continue reading, picking up in verse 13. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" Well, they replied, "Some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others say Jeremiah, or one of the other prophets." Then he asked them, "But who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus replied, "You are blessed, Simon, son of John, because my Father in heaven has revealed this to you. You did not learn this from any human being. Now I say to you that you are Peter, which means rock, and upon this rock I will build my church, and all the powers of hell will not conquer it, and I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you forbid on earth will be forbidden in heaven. Whatever you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven." Then he sternly warned the disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. The Father enables us to see Jesus as the Son of God. It does not come from human wisdom. Do not expect people to get there through their intellect. It is through revelation only. Also remember this when we seek to know Jesus better. It is through revelation, not through great intellect. Also, the destiny of the church comes through revelation as well, not great understanding. When we look at the church, we see it struggle against demonic forces that control this earth. In reality, the church will win. We think that people choosing to align against the church means the church is losing, but that is not the case. Those people lose. The church continues to have authority over darkness. We have authority to release forgiveness. We have authority to see people set free from darkness. We have authority to grow and walk in freedom, and the darkness cannot stop it. Without his revelation, we see things only from this world's perspective. It is easy to get discouraged when we see so much evil. We need to be thankful for a spiritual understanding of what is happening. People get set free. People walk in his hope, freedom, and joy. No, the darkness in this world cannot stop it and cannot stand against it. Yes, we know that ultimately, the final victory comes when Jesus returns. But there is also victory today as well. We need him to fill our day with hope, peace, and joy. Something that this world cannot stop, cannot take from us, and cannot prevent us from releasing to our world. Thank you for joining us, and join us tomorrow as we continue our journey down the Via Dolorosa. God bless.